Hi everybody, it's me, Miss Britt, and I'm here to tell you and explain your next project. So this is week 6 and 7, and you have 2 weeks to do it and 2 options. Last 2 units, we did the same thing. So you had 2 weeks to do a project and you had 2 options. This week 6 and 7 is honoring Earth Month, which was April. There was an Earth Day where we all kind of stopped and honored the Earth and how we can better it and keep it beautiful and safe for humanity. And so I feel like this pandemic has brought out the best in us as far as awareness, and also we can continue to honor nature as it is providing the most beautiful weather for us lately. And so we want to think about Earth and how we can actually make some art by recycling. So we're going to recycle something with paper. So an old book will do, newspapers, maps, old dictionary, old textbooks that is no longer of use to you or your parents that you might go through in your closet. So I want you to think about the material. So so the 2 options of using that material is a 2D or a 3D. So 2D is a flat surface of you just making art on that book page or the collage of an old map, whatever it is. There's plenty of examples in the slideshow. Or your 3D option is actually making cutouts of little figures, silhouettes, any kind of geometric. I've seen some really cool geometric patterns where you fold the book in certain sections and certain number of pages. You fold a certain way, and then you have this pattern, and then it comes into this like really cool geometric sculpture. So look at the examples and figure out which options you want to do by using these old book pages. So there's a 2D and a 3D option. Also, speaking of paper, we're actually going to look at and travel to Japan and honor their culture in the way that they have a really beautiful art form of kirigami and origami. The art of paper cutting is kirigami, and the art of paper folding is origami. And some of you already know how to do a lot of origami creatures. They have a real solid respect for nature, and that they're very resourceful. They're very environmentally aware, and they imitate nature in their art. And it's a very long tradition of using paper. And so I'm also going to include my favorite, and the only thing I know how to fold is the origami crane. And so we do this in my class every year. We'll fold some paper cranes and we'll talk about the symbol of the crane, which is a sign of peace. And so if you want to look that up, and I'll try and share something for that story. But this is a beautiful way of recognizing how nature provides all the things that we need to make art. And so I wanted to, just a side note, to mention that we are kind of focusing on the Japanese culture and their art forms of paper cutting and folding. So what you're going to do in this unit, and for the next 2 weeks you're going to be working on this. This is probably going to take you a little time. It might take you 1 sitting, it might take you 5. So what I ask you to do, if you were to have a puzzle set up, you might want to have you might want to set aside a space for you to work on your puzzle in an ongoing setting, like at a table that no one uses for eating. You might want to have a corner in your room set aside that you can. I used to have a corner in my room where I would do all my collage work, and it was an ongoing thing. I never stopped working on something. I was always working on something. I was jumping from this project to the next. So I always had that area where I had a stack of magazines and my scissors and my glue set up for any kind of spur of the moment creativity I might have. And so I look at you, as far as this pandemic has set us up to where we are having to balance a lot of things between our screen time and our work in the classroom or the at-home classroom. And so I don't want to add any more stress to you. And I've mentioned that before. All my lessons that I've provided you since this pandemic started in our stay-at-home classroom setting, I have only provided you this opportunity to stop that and take a break from it and do something for yourself. And so this is something that I'm just trying to give you ideas to kind of strike up a little creativity in your day. And as I like to add quotes, of course, Albert Einstein once said, creativity is intelligence having fun. And I feel like it's just as important for you to work on this as it is your other core subjects, especially in a time like this where you are deprived of a lot of freedoms. And art is that thing that gives you all the freedom you need. In the comfort of your home, you can work on this outside, which has been a little windy, so I've actually been painting outside. There's a few other things I've been wanting to do outside, but of course, you know your limitations, but I would love for you to set aside a space to work on this recycled project. And so we are looking at just taking something old. It smells really old. You can do as many pages out of this as you want. You can just work on one sheet. Just tear out the very back sheet that you don't think anybody's going to notice. But make sure you have permission to take from this book or whatever it may be that has a lot of text in it. I say old books without pictures because you're not gonna be battling with what's more important, your drawing or the images. Like magazines, there's too many pictures that you're battling with. So I would say something with just a lot of text on it so that you can draw your illustration on it, and it's being the emphasis, the focal point of the piece. So this is just adding texture and just a really cool background that just a plain old piece of copy paper is not going to provide. So I'm trying to be resourceful and helping you improvise with what you have, and I'm hoping that everyone's able to find some kind of material to recycle and use as your surface area to work on. You can do 2D and drawing or painting, or you can actually cut out and create like a model or an illustration, like cutting out Peter Pan and Wendy flying through and using like little wires to do the little figures out, using the actual book as your surface to, build upon, maybe a forest in the background made of book pages. There's so many ideas, and I hope you just refer to the slideshow. You go ahead and Google if you have something specific in mind, like those geometric patterns that you can actually look up. There's patterns that you can do, and it tells you how many pages and what kind of fold to do, and then you do another group of pages and do a different fold, and it turns into this, like I said, it's just turned into some cool geometric sculpture using just one book. But make sure you have permission. This is an old art appreciation book from like years ago where people were actually assigned this. It smells really old, and I don't even know what the date. 1973. Ooh, that was way before my time. But just to give you some ideas, look for my slides and examples. And I hope you really find the time to enjoy yourself. Like I said, it might be you just might want to sit with it for a day and just think on it, and then come back the next day and sit with it for a few minutes and maybe cut out some things. If you don't like it, set it aside and come back and maybe try a 2D approach. If you try a 2D approach, then you get bored and you say, okay, this isn't working. I just want you to find some kind of balance, and maybe try and set up a goal to visit this project area, this piece palette, this little section of your house dedicated to this art project, so that you can be productive on something that has nothing to do with all that work that you're expected to do. And like I said, I think it's just as important that you find time for yourself with all this screen time, and get outside and get some sunshine, because it's Earth Month. Still, I feel like every day is Earth Day, and the earth without art is just